Sounds like Pete pretty much answered the question that no, we have no control over who we can fire, just like we have no control over what time we can tell police and fire when to show up to work. It's a union issue. We can't tell them. We're not really their bosses anymore, you know. And to get back to something that Pete mentioned, I think it's a bit misleading. Did he have the money to be picky about who he took contributions from this campaign? Yes. Did he accept funding from the police union and several police officers, retired and otherwise, last campaign? Yes. Is he endorsed by them? Yes. Frankly, I've never been a city employee. The other two candidates have been city employees for over a decade. I think it's they may try hard to work and negotiate with these unions, but I think they're in a tough position, especially as a former police officer, to negotiate these contracts. You know, when it's affecting your own personal pocketbook, how much can you really be tough on others whose pensions you're affecting? Thank you.
Thursday, a couple of good friends of mine were given pink slips. So if you want to talk about merit and you want to talk about seniority, some really good people got let go because they were low on the food chain. And they're actually people who work in your neighborhood. They will no longer have jobs as of June. So I think, yeah, if we could introduce a merit system, I think we should do it. Just real quickly, I think the other two things we need to look at when we talk about how we're going to get out of this fiscal hole we're in is structural deficit is huge with respect to the city. He talks about having enough money to manage essential services. I ask you this question, what's essential to you? What would you give up? Okay, we have to talk about that. And the simple fact is there's other things that the city is doing right now that if we address them tomorrow, wouldn't save $100 million, but most definitely would give us 10, 15, 20 million. For example, there's a 45% oversight attached to public works projects over $100,000. If we raise that cap, you would save $45,000 per project over $100,000. Think about that. Right now, city departments charge each other for staff time. We could do what? We could do a lot better than do that. We would reduce that. So there's things we can do, okay?
Tom Johnson, tobacco tax money is now in the general fund. Why is senior nutrition being cut?
The way, as I understand the Healthy Neighborhood Venture Fund, I'm not really sure why they retargeted senior programming or senior programs for that dollar amount. I know they want to try to offset some of the budget deficit with the HNBF or tobacco money, or the tobacco money. I think it's a mistake. As you will read my campaign website and you learn about me here today, I am about community, all communities, whether they're senior communities or teen communities or retirement or working family communities. And if you cut the essential services in those areas, especially if you're a beneficiary, then that's a mistake. We got to do better. And I think it's if we don't value seniors, then who do we value? It's a little bleeding hard, I know, but that's a fair statement to make. And the city is making decisions based on dollar value and not real people.
Pete Johnson.
Well, let me just correct. HNBF money is not in the general fund yet. It's proposed for our next budget. But what we really need to do is look at how we deliver the services and where the money comes from and where it goes. Right now, the money comes from several sources, including the county, from HNBF fund, gets funneled through the city of San Jose to deliver services. It costs the city of San Jose over, I think it's $11, $10 and change, almost $11 to deliver a senior meal. I've been working with the Silicon Valley Council of Nonprofits and some other community leaders to look at how can we alternatively deliver these services at a lower cost, because we all know that we can go and get a meal at a restaurant at a better price. We're looking at how we can preserve the senior nutrition program and deliver it more efficiently so that we can ensure the seniors receive the program that have the benefit, because it is an essential city service, and we've been working very hard to do so.
The reality is there's going to be a lot of services cut over the next coming years. Earlier, a couple of the sheriff candidates who had worked with San Jose PD talked about the police and fire pension plan and its solvency. The city has already had to contribute additional millions of dollars this year to keep it solvent for this year's payments. So it's not solvent, and it's going to continue getting worse in the coming years. So I think people should get either used to accepting the cuts that are going to be made, or we've got to take some really hard decisions that need to be made now. In regards to the services we provide, we really need to look at the private sector and see how we can make our city more competitive. The areas where we do actually already hire private security for certain parts of the city, and I think that needs to be expanded. The police force just costs way too much to cover such a large area. Thank you.
Next question. Question for all three council office candidates. Have you ever been arrested, had a civil court judgment against you, or filed bankruptcy?
Sir? I've never filed bankruptcy. I did have a reckless driving charge about 5 years ago, so I assume that's what the question's about. Thanks.
No civil judgments, no bankruptcies. When I was a younger man, I made a mistake in the downtown and received a drunken public citation, which I paid the $100 fine. But other than that, no, I went on to have a very productive life. I met my wife, have two beautiful boys, and live out here in West San Jose.
I've made a lot of arrests as a police officer, but I've never been arrested. I've experienced financial difficulties in businesses that I've operated, but I have never filed bankruptcy, and I have never had any civil judgments against me. And I would just ask, David, since you didn't use all your time, was it reckless or what reckless?
There are no questions.
Well, that's a big difference, so I hope some of you ask those questions.
Well, just on complete disclosure, it was a wet reckless. I'm sorry I made a mistake, and I'd look to get past it.
We talked a lot of policy. Let's talk personality. What about you in your personality, your character, makes you suited for this position?
Well, I think most of you know my personality. I'm forthright, I'm direct, and I'm fiercely independent. When people have supported me in my council campaign, and then they've tried to influence me, I've stood up to them and said, there is no quid pro quo with Pete. You can see articles in the Mercury News and other papers where I've firmly stood up against people who you would think would be, as mentioned, quoted in my back pocket. That just does not happen. And I tell it like it is. When I come to your neighborhoods and you ask me a question, you get the answer even if it's not the one you want to hear. But we work on it together, we find ways to come up with solutions, and we get things done. So I would say honest, independent, and collaborative, and I live up to performances. I get things done.
David Nancy.
Well, talking about my personality, I've always been pretty ambitious. I started my own company with my business partner in 2005. I do commercial real estate. As a business owner in District 1, I've helped hundreds of businesses get started in this area, and I'd like to see them have a true opportunity to succeed. With the current business practices here in San Jose, that is a major challenge. The planning requirements, zoning requirements make that ever more difficult. San Jose is known as, trust me, among the small commercial real estate brokerage community, which is about 300 to 500 people in the entire greater Bay Area. San Jose is known as one of the worst cities to try and open a business, one of the most challenging to get through the planning department, and I'd like to see that change. Thank you.
Well, hopefully it's my sense of humor. I think you guys got that already, right, with my joke this earlier. If you were to ask my friends or colleagues who I am and what I'm about, well, I'm about integrity, I'm about honesty, I'm about fierce loyalty, fierce friendship, I'm about passion and commitment, I'm about intellect. What I think we want city council members and what, beyond just being able to manage what we're doing, you want to get a feel for who they are, what their values are. As I said earlier, I value community service. My wife's a school teacher. We want to impart that to our children. We want to, and the way you do that is you coach it and you show it by example. I want to be your council member because I think we want that type of leadership. And I think we want people who care about our city, who have the intellect to do the problem solving, but in general have a sense of compassion, and a sense of fair play, and a sense of decency that we need in city government. So